Welcome everyone, my name is Luca and this is my good friend Marco.
Hey, welcome! You are about to form a new random access memory.
And today's memory is about the future, our childhood hopes and what it is now. So, what's your take on that?
Well, I was a big consumer of sci-fi media as a kid. So today I brought a series of examples that really teach us what was the expectation that we had back in our past. And I have to tell you that surprisingly, we got a lot of things right, because many of the things that were included in the sci-fi when we were kids has indeed become a reality. And there are many different technology. For example, the VR headset, it's something that became a reality because we saw it in Jurassic Park. I don't know if you remember it, when they wear this sort of helmet with a VR headset inside the amusement park. And they also wear it in Demolition Man. I don't know if you know the movie. Do you remember the plot?
I do remember the first one. I still have to look in my memory banks for the second one, but yeah, I have a fair idea about what you're saying. Yeah.
Actually, in the first one, they use a VR headset because Sylvester Stallone and the other girl, they fall in love. So she agreed to have sex with him, and he finally go to her apartment, and she asked him to wear a VR headset because they don't do.
And then you say that porn is not an important part of the IT industry, right?
Yeah, to go back to our first video. But yeah, that's an example of how we were kind of expecting a VR
I give you another. Have you ever watched a series called Star Trek? I know it's not famous, but have you ever heard of it? Yeah.
Kind of watch it sometimes. Okay. Yeah.
In that series, we have the first example of a concept that nowadays people are used to and you couldn't live without, which is the iPhone and the tablet concept. It was firstly realized into that series, and it was mind-blowing at the time. There is still something there that we haven't reached yet, which is holographic reality for meetings. Think about Star Wars, for example, when the Jedi Council meet and they have this projection, which is lifelike but not real enough to be confused. Yeah, think about your meetings at work. You don't have to be there, but your hologram is there, which is fun because nowadays in Skype or whatever you're using, you can do the meetings half dressed. But if you're on hologram, you are seen in your entirety. So if you are, I don't know, dressed half correct and half not, that's a funny meeting.
Well, actually, you could have a hologram only of your half body, you know, from the belly upward.
That would be really sad and really lame, because if the hologram is supposed to be your whole figure, you are disfigured.
No, you can be at the center of the table, you know, like kind of sitting in the center of the table, and the real person are around you. But besides, I think that I saw a very strange way to do that, and it was basically like it was like a shower. Imagine a very large shower that throws some droplets, and the droplets fall, and the shower was throwing the droplets to create the shape of a person. And the water was kind of whitish.
I what you're saying. Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
And you have a lamp that it's an intermittent lamp. So it's like the droplets start, then when they become a person, there is a flash of light, and then there is a second run of water, and a second light, and it's really fast. So it's like when you look at it, you have the sensation to see actually a 3D image, because you have all the water droplets that create the 3D of the person, and then you have this light that project the
that
face.
That very fast light is not good if you're epileptic, I guess. That would be a problem. So I'm just thinking, if that would be largely used, you would have a part of the population that couldn't take part. I'm just, nowadays you have to be politically correct with everything you say, every word you pronounce. So why can't we be politically correct in technologies that we propose? That's what I'm saying. Sorry for the digression.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's always very difficult. But just to say that there are people who are really trying to develop this holographic presence, let's say, but it's certainly very challenging, technologically very challenging. One thing that is not challenging, going back to Demolition Man, there is a scene, and you can see it in the trailer. I just watched it before to do this podcast. There is a scene where there are a lot of virtual presence. So these are kind of very simple robots with a camera and a screen that represent the face of a person. And it seems that these kind of robots are starting to appear, are starting to appear around. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, Demolition Man was quite good because they had the virtual presence, the VR headset. But what they got really wrong is the large scale brainwashing. Like they have this future society where nobody is violent, and
that's a concept that it's widely used into the fantasy or sci-fi genre, for example. But still, going back to what the example you used at the start, think about Return to the Future. Think about the fact that it's so sad that nowadays we are past it, date, if you think about dates, but whatever, that's a sadness on itself. Think about the way people were moving around with these hoovering devices that you could use. And that came to my mind because recently, as you're aware, I bought an electrical scooter, which is futuristic in itself. Cool. But if you think about Return to the Future, we are, or we should have been already, on flying cars.
Yeah, where is my flying overboard? Let's say.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that it's all. Actually, there is even a one thing that's worse. Where is my auto lacing shoes? Where is my Nike auto lacing shoes? Where is it? I remember there was a prototype, or it's real. I think it's real. But I think Nike did one model that it's auto lacing, and I think the actor tried it. Jamie Foxx tried it, but I don't think it's commercially available yet. I don't think we're going to see it in the near future. Also, there's one thing that changed as well, which is related to some other subject that we said in the past. The future, when you talk about it, in the 80s or in the 90s, it was 20, 25, 30 years. The future, when you talk about it now, it's 3, 5, 10 years. So it's getting shorter and shorter by the time.
Yeah, I think this has something to do with like where humanity was in the 80s versus where it is now. Because my sensation in general is that they tend to overstate our physical capabilities. So they tend to imagine that our energy consumption would go much higher. For example, the flying car, it's a typical trope of science fiction. So we have, for example, Blade Runner. The first one came out in 1982, and it was set in 2019. And if you see what they expected in 2019, it's like they are very futuristic in everything that is material, like flying cars, really giant city. Like they said we are at some point they say we are in a city of 106 million inhabitants. We don't have nothing nearly like that. I think Tokyo, the larger Tokyo area, it's around 40 million or so.
I think the biggest one is around 50 million. Yeah, that's potentially true, I think. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we don't have flying cars, even though we start to have drones that are powerful enough that a person might ride onto those, but are still like they have still half an hour autonomy, and they are still a very exotic technology. I mean, they are very far from the flying cars that you see in
There is another thing that I was hoping to see. You remember the Jetson cartoon when we were younger?
That was much older than we are.
Okay, fair enough.
My
that
mom,
was 67.
my mother.
And flying cars as well, which is fine. I'm still waiting for my personalized robot maiden that does everything. We have pieces. For example, in my house, I have the Xiaomi robot that cleans automatically the house, which is nice. I have a washing machine that wash dishes. So, that's another part. I have lights that are connected to my phone, which I can automate and whatever. So that's another part. What we are missing is a big picture kind of holistic view. And that would tie with the, again, other couple of topics such as Skynet and too much control on AI kind of thing. And the other one would be lose of freedom, because if you let something else decide when the lights should be on and so forth and so forth, you are giving some part of your freedom to something else. So apart from the positive or negative aspect of whatever I'm saying now, is we don't have yet some concentrated and dense system that can take care of multiple aspects of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it in a simpler term.
Have it or not?
So, we don't have any artificial general intelligence. Be it, like, again, going back to Blade Runner, there are these replicators, which are, let's say, the villain, which are the threat, let's say, in the movie. And I mean, maybe they are robots, or maybe they are just bioengineered humanoids or whatever. But in our present, in our day today, we don't have anything that is artificial that seems to be today an existential threat for our, like, we don't have anything so intelligent. And we don't have it because our artificial intelligence are not as good as, for example, I don't know if you remember KITT. There was a serial movie, Knight Rider, with this car. There was this black car with a red LED.
The first time I got my Apple Watch, the first Apple Watch that I ever had, I spent like 5 minutes, I'm not joking, 5 minutes talking to the fucking thing, calling him KITT. So I remember.
Yeah, I guess you do. And actually, the artificial intelligence of that car was perfect. Like, the car cracked jokes, understood everything. It was like you could have a conversation with it.
A modern interpretation of KITT is Jarvis from the Marvel world, the AI created by Iron Man, for example, or Friday, the next iteration of that one.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but the point is that back in the past, actually KITT wasn't even set in the future. So it was something. It was something fictional.
Past.
Yeah. Let's say it was something fictional, but something that they expect to be able to produce. They expected a large corporation like the Federal Police of the United States to be able to produce a self-driving car, which also had a human level artificial intelligence.
Basically,
inside,
Tesla with accommodation inside. That's cool.
I think the closer you can get would be a Tesla with Siri inside, or with I mean, it's as close as you can get to KITT. And the funny thing is that KITT was not electric. It used the fuel, like they had all that technology, but still didn't think that you have an electric car.
As opposed to Return to the Future, when you have the car that was fueled by used things such as food and whatever. So that's another contrast if you think about another concept. For example, do you remember Futurama, the cartoon?
Yeah, I do. But that was pretty much in the future, actually. It's not the present for sure.
That's kind of a view of what the future could be from the creator of The Simpsons. So that's interesting as well.
Yeah.
Need I remind you that The Simpsons predicted Trump a long time before he came. So I'm not saying, but potentially, whatever.
Yeah. Just saying.
And in that specific cartoon, which I urge people to look at because it's one of the best ones we have, there are ideas that I don't support. For example, the suicide chambers, whatever.
Even though euthanasia became legal in some states in the US. Yes. I mean, people who have some problem, of course, not everybody can just go in a suicide machine.
Okay, let's not go there because that's something that I don't want to go to. It's
Yeah,
very heavy.
yeah,
Everybody
too
has
heavy, too heavy.
and what's not. So let's not. But what I would say was, you could see, for example, that a lot of things that we see nowadays, for example, differences and what's not, they were cancelled. But the fact that when you consider that you're not the only thing anymore in the
So
universe,
there are aliens.
but you are part of something bigger, your perspective on things such as I am from the US, I am from Europe, I'm from China, let's fight together because we are different. In history, for example, every time there was a common enemy, mankind united. So the perspective of not being the only ones could be a good thing. That's one good thing that I'm taking from that. If we are not alone and there are others, psychologically it's bad, but if there are others, the closer and the more we collaborate, the better it is. So that's one thing that I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, actually, there is a very, very, very beautiful scene that proposed that idea in a very weird and very old cartoon that you probably didn't see, because so didn't I until little time ago. The cartoon is called Heavy Metal. It's like a cartoon from the 70s, I guess.
I wasn't even a thought by then, so yeah.
Yeah, me neither, but you can find it for free. I think on Vimeo you can find it. Just Google heavy metal cartoon, and you will see. And there is this scene where there is an alien, like a green man, that is carried by the police, and the protagonist look at him and says, usually legal aliens. So you really understand, like it puts things into perspective, let's say.
By the way, do you know the term in US law for someone who is not from the US?
It's an illegal alien, but they did it by purpose. Like they put an actual alien, like a green man, and the protagonist called him illegal alien.
By the way, that's racist. Why aliens are always green? Can't they be pink? What's this color thing going on? I don't get it.
Why? They are gray sometimes.
It's racist. Come on, what the fuck? Can't you have like a moon inhabitant that is pink or purple or whatever? So what? I don't get it.
No, I don't get why they don't have the white part in their eyes. Their eyes are always like.
Actually, I know why. Because considering that we try to depict aliens from a human point of view, and we have no experience whatsoever with real, not human life forms, we try to humanize it or dehumanize it, but with a human base.
Yeah. I mean, for some reason, there is this image of the alien that became popular, which is like a gray or green man, pretty short, large head, because it's supposed to be intelligent. And like a small nose and completely black eyes. I don't know why, but there are actually I don't know why, but somebody really liked to remove the white part. There is also the book Dunes. The book Dunes that I really suggest to read is a great book. It's very difficult in the beginning, but once you surpass the beginning where you have to learn all the terminology, etc., it's really rewarding. And there you have a race of people called the Mentat. I don't know how it's pronounced. And they have blue eyes, but they have only the blue. There is not the white part. So it's somehow in science fiction there is this human desire to remove the white part of the eye. Seems very odd, but it's very like this.
So talking about future, there is another subject that it's interesting, and it's kind of broad, but I just want to breach it. In a lot of futures, you have two kinds of futures presented. You have a positive one and a negative one. Positive one is humankind, go to space and do cool things and whatever, expand, conquer,
post-scarcity.
And that's the positive one. Then you have the negative one, as in humankind develops something that destroys itself, and you have apocalypse or post-apocalypse worlds,
like Mad Max,
destruction and reconstruction and what's not. So what I'm hoping is for the positive one. As an idealist, as a realist, I think it's going to be something in the middle. As in, we're going to have part of the bad ones and part of the good ones. So
I don't know. I mean, I think that we don't have a middle ground. I think. I mean, if we are talking 10 years, 15 years, I'm with you. Like things will basically stay the same. There will be improvement and degradation, and things will change, but stay the same overall. But if we are talking long term, like more than 100 years or so, either we go extinct or become really few on this planet, or we reach the post-scarcity civilization. Like we basically became a Kardashev type 1 civilization.
oh yeah, I remember what I was trying to say. Sorry, I got a little lost, but good point.
The Kardashev scale.
In those futures, there is always a time machine or a time travel involved. Kinda always, right? So a little tangent, but do you think it's possible to travel to the past, not to the future, to travel to the past? And if so, if you from your present move to the past, wouldn't your future, which is the present,
has showed up already?
The future, so you wouldn't be able to change it. So what I'm saying is, do you think that time travel is possible? And if so, time is linear or not?
Well, I think it's not possible. I think it's not possible to travel back in time. But yeah, I think it's really too complicated, because I really don't know what it is time, you know. Like according to relativity, there is only space-time. And in the framework of relativity, you can travel back in time. Like basically, if you do superluminal travel, so if you go faster than the speed of light, you also go back in time. But the point is that if you do that, you are no longer causally connected, you know, because time doesn't exist. There is only causality. So there is something that causes something else.
There is also another thing that, let's say you go to the past and do something that change, for example, your history, not your direct history, but your history as in you make something that make, I don't know, your mother or your grandfather, whatever, have it that they don't have you. How can you travel back when you are not? So what I'm saying is,
no, but I think
moving backward potentially is possible, but in read-only mode, you can't change it. What I'm interested in as well is, if you are able to reach light speed, can you move in space up to a point where you are not physically in this time period, but you are in something that is different? And if so,
yeah, actually, if you move very close to the speed of light, you have time dilation, so you actually move to the future very fast. But if you
so
move
you could
faster,
be 19 when in reality you should be like 150, because you move so fast that time for you slow down. So
exactly. So
that,
if you do a circular,
can move forward but not backward, because light goes one direction. But yeah, I see your point. Yeah, sorry.
So if you do a circular path,
yeah.
No, you can also go backward, because if you go
if
faster,
you go so
than
fast that you okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, if you go faster than the speed of light, for example, you see the sun, you know, when you look at the sun, you are looking at the sun as it was 8 minutes ago, because the life takes 8 minutes to reach you. So if you speed toward the sun and you reach it in 6 minutes, you are now 2 minutes.
Obviously possible.
Yeah, you are now 2 minutes in your own past. So if you do these very far, so if you go like 20 light years and you reach it in 1 month, you will have 19 years and 11 months in the past. At that point, it's like you are no longer part of this universe, you know? Like there is yourself in the past,
you're like
but
an
it's
alien.
not you anymore.
You're like an alien.
You're like an alien, because you are not causally connected to anything, you know? It's like you are just wrong. Like you can even go back and change, but yourself that you meet in your own past is not you anymore. because you are like you're in another movie, you know.
So what you're saying is talking a little more technical. If the time you're in is a line, you create a branch of that line. So even if you go back and you go the thing again and go back, you're still on your own branch, not on the real one. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
also interesting because you remember a little thing called string theory.
Yes, but
no matter
it's
if you remember
becoming
what it
really
is or not,
rather
but
unpopular
yeah,
recently.
but basically the thing is, if an entity A and an entity A coexist at the same time, that's kind of impossible.
Yeah, no, but you become an entity B. And I tell you more. If you go back to your own past, chances are that there is a lot of replicas of yourself there. Because it's like if you were able to build this extremely fast spacecraft.
Why do it once and not multiple times? Yeah.
Yeah. Why your younger self will not do it also? And why, I mean, you know, there can be really a shitload of people there.
That would be an interesting explanation for the phrase not being able to live with yourself.
Yes, you would need a very large apartment, basically. Also because I mean, it can be infinite, you know. It's yeah. So I don't think there will be.
That's a scary idea, but it's assuming that it's possible. It's not so unrealistical, I'd say.
Yeah, but going back to the old prediction of the present, there is something that surprised me a lot. That nobody, I mean, they did, but let's talk about this. But nobody predicted the smartphone. I mean, they did because they had these cool gadgets,
Star
sometimes
Trek
holographic.
had kind of this idea, yeah.
Yeah. They had these. Maybe Star Trek was the only one because I saw that many times they have this really sophisticated portable device that they can use for communication, but they didn't get the scale of how useful and how addictive it is, you know? Because take Blade Runner, for example. In Blade Runner, at some point, the protagonist have a video call with a girl, and you know where he has a video call?
I don't remember, so enlighten me.
In a telephone box. I mean, you have a telephone box, a public telephone box, where instead of having a phone, there is a video phone inside.
I see. I thought it was the other kind of video call with girl.
No. Let's switch to
no. But
else.
To be fair, I watched the movie so long ago that sometimes I don't remember the finer details. So that's fair. I should rewatch it because recently there was the sequel, which is supposed to be good. So I may start watching them again. There is another interesting thing. Do you know, or have you ever heard of a series called Battlestar Galactica?
You already spoke about that, but I didn't watch it last time, and I didn't this time.
The idea was that humankind created androids that were able to be as close to humankind as possible, and then they destroyed it and whatever. But one of the other ideas was that the humanity that we have now, that was there, was not the first humanity that ever existed. And the first humanity had the full cycle of creation, reaching the top, going down, destroying themselves, but saving a little part that then sparkled humankind in another part of the universe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what's your take on this idea, for example?
Well, I mean, this is clearly in a very long time frame. So I think if we ever become a so-called spacefaring civilization, so a civilization that span throughout the galaxy, let's say, it's really difficult to predict what will be. I really hope that this is our future, and I really hope that by the time I die, there will be at least a colony on the moon, at least that. Hopefully on Mars, but
you're going to be able to die, because if everything goes fine, we could be able to reach a point where dying is not a thing anymore. And
that would be great.
By the way, and what is the meaning of life if death has no meaning? That's an interesting point of view, for example. That's why living forever is supposed to be about living forever, not as in never dies, but living forever in being able, for example, to be transferred, your knowledge transferred into a clone of yourself or something else, whatever. I don't care about the method. But what is the meaning of X if there is no the opposite? So what's the meaning of living if death doesn't have any meaning? You know,
I don't care. There are so many things to learn. There are so many things like
yes,
and,
but
like
yes,
and
but,
it's going to be even more. You know, the information is going to grow and grow.
Think about this. Think about this. Why, when you learn something new or you're able to do something new, is so exciting? Because it has a meaning. Because you know that your life is limited and you are able to learn or do something in your limited amount of time. But if your amount of time is unlimited, why there is even a point in doing things?
So you think that we will become suicidal? So if we
apathical, basically doing nothing at all, just existing.
I don't know. I think like just the last suggestion before we end, unfortunately, this very interesting podcast. There is an incredible book by an author called Greg Evan, and the book is called Permutation City, and it's all played on that idea of uploading your brain and your consciousness in a computer. And there is one guy who I really love. He loves to be eternal, but basically he sometimes create a copy of himself and he forgets everything. It's like, imagine that you are you. Okay, you are Luca, and you create a copy of yourself that it's a person who live in the 17th century and that study bugs. You are studying insects, and you just live the life of that guy, but then you go back to you, and you just keep very little of information from the life of that guy. But during the time that you were there, you really experience all that life. So basically,
a useless clone, a useless mix of lifetimes that you never remember.
That you remember very little, let's say. Imagine how much you remember now of your childhood. I mean, you remember a lot, but not so much of your high school years. You know, like your high school years, if you try to play it completely, I kind of doubt that you will reach 24 hours of tapes, probably. I mean, it's so for me. I mean, if I think about my high school years, which were 5 years, if I really try to play every moment that I remember, like even if I do an effort, I'm sure I will not put together one day of recordings.
If I could picture together the times that I remembered, they could be on one hand and I still would have fingers.
So it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
We wish you a happy week.
And to see you next week with a new random access memory. Stay frosty and safe.